Have you ever wanted to create your own handicapping dream team? You can build your own superstar handicapping lineup using our Pick Your Team program at both WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Even more exciting, until Monday, September 12th at midnight, you can save 10% off Pick Your Team using coupon code PYT10 when checking out. Dave Cokin, Marco D'Angelo, and Ralph Michaels, JM Sports, Joseph D'Amico, and the Rocket Man. The combinations are endless as you can choose up to 5 handicappers. You start saving once you choose any 2 handicappers of your choice, and you can pay as little as under $6 per handicapper. Who will make up your dream lineup? Go to WagerTalk or Sports Memo, click Pick Your Team, and personally hand select your handicapping roster. Don't forget that coupon code PYT will expire on September 12th, so get your 10% discount and put together your personalized dream team today.
Hey guys, welcome in, and a very happy, September now. September the 6th, and we get ready for week 2 in college football, the College Football Kickoff Show. It is, of course, powered by WagerTalk.com. We love our Tuesday crew because it's 3 of the best at WagerTalk, literally 3 of the best college football handicappers we got. And it starts with Ralph Michaels up at the top. Tony Mejia, his special pen here today as well. Tony Mejia hanging out, and of course, Mr. Dave Cokin here, guys, to break down a couple of these games coming up for a week 2 in college football. And Ralph, couldn't get more exciting than that week 1. A little sweats, a couple of rocking chairs, but all in all, your impressions of week 1, if any, and what do you got for us over at WagerTalk.com? All right, good. You keep that thought, Ralph. We'll get back to you on that. How about you, Mejia? Let's talk here a little bit about a week 1 takeaway and what you got going on at WagerTalk.
Well, yeah, we'll have, obviously the NFL season starts this weekend. Slow start in college, 4-1 week 0, and then week 1 did not go as well. Did not like what happened in Utah, Florida. Obviously, the LSU, Florida State finish didn't go my way. And then yesterday, I didn't want to lay 24 with Clemson, so I took them in the first half, and that late field goal Georgia Tech managed blew that up. So we're going to bounce back this week. But, I mean, all in all, it's great to have football back.
Yeah, no, it's always good to have a little college football in our lives, getting ready, of course, for the NFL, but somebody who knows a little something about college football and certainly profiting from betting on it, Dave Cokin. Again, guys, #1 in profits at WagerTalk all time. Nobody does it quite like he does it. Also, pretty darn impressive, Dave, closing line value plays there this week. 7-0 already to start the season. And I know you're getting ready for week 2. What else is going on?
Yeah, I've got closing line value in all 7 games I've played so far in college football. I think total 12 points. You're still going to pick winners. I mean, that's the bottom line. But it's easier to get to the winner's circle if you're getting the optimum line. And that's one of the things I strive to do each week. 2 games up so far for week 2 in college football. Closed the week very nicely with a 2-0 on Monday. Obviously got some help with the special teams in the Clemson game, but I'll take it. And that was a good example of closing line value because I didn't have to sweat at the end of that game because I had, I think, 21. Yep. A lot better than 24. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with everything overall and looking to do some damage.
Yeah, real quick on that game, Dave, Klubnik, how long before we see him, do you think, at Clemson? That kid looks the part.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a quarterback controversy brewing there. Not yet. And DJ wasn't horrible last night. The biggest problem with Clemson in much of that game was the offensive line was not good in the early and into the mid-third quarter, which you could see by the rushing yards. They had 53 rushing yards with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. They wore Clemson down, Georgia Tech down. Georgia Tech has no depth, and it really showed in the fourth quarter last night. I thought Clemson might pull away in the game, and that's exactly what happened. But Clemson's going to have to be better offensively if they want to make a run at getting back to the playoffs, and it might well be that later on this season we might see more of Klubnik By the way, for those who are criticizing Davo for pouring it on, look, he needed to see Klubnik running the up-tempo offense. I mean, those were important snaps, even though they didn't make a difference in the game. This isn't Little League, okay? You go out there and play 60 minutes. And so for those people saying, oh, they showed no class, STFU, okay? Learn the game. This was not a typical situation because of the fact that Davo wants reps for Klubnik.
Yeah.
So
and this wasn't this was a close game. It was a one-score game into the third quarter, guys. This was not a situation where it was a blowout by the middle of the first quarter. So it was great to see the kid on there, but I'm with you. I do think there's going to be a little bit of a QB controversy at Clemson here over the next couple of weeks. There is certainly some controversy regarding our first game up here. How about Louisville? Are they as bad as they looked here? Well, we're going to find out. Wasn't great against Syracuse, so now they're coming to your area there, Mejia. UCF, Central Florida. They're laying 6 here, 61.5. This is going to be the 7:30 game here coming up in just a few days. What do you think, Mejia? Are you buying UCF right now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they blew out South Carolina State, so it's not like they were playing world beaters in the opener, but it's just the talent level, the infusion of talent that are in. Kamor Gamble, who shined at Florida, he's a UCF tight end now. Made the trip down from Gainesville. They got Javon Baker, started his career at Alabama. He's now the number 2 wide receiver here behind Ryan O'Keefe, who's one of the better receivers in the country. And then the quarterback, John Rice Plumlee. He was Matt Corral's backup at Ole Miss. Just a fantastic athlete, can beat you with his legs and his arm. So things are looking up at UCF. They certainly deserve to be the favorite in this game. It looks like it's going to be about a 70% chance of rain. So that might put a damper on how effective they can be offensively. But, based on what we saw from Louisville in their opener, they're already chirping their fans about Scott Satterfield continuing to call plays. And his seat is awfully hot now in his 4th season. They haven't really had a lot of success there under him. They hired Lance Taylor, who was at Notre Dame. And he's not calling plays. He's just their offensive coordinator, which is strange to me that Satterfield is still calling the plays there. It would not surprise me if Louisville with a loss here and then a loss to Florida State next week if Satterfield gets the heave-ho early.
So we're at that 6.5. Whether or not it makes it to a full touchdown will be interesting to see, Dave. Listen, if it could go wrong, it went wrong for Louisville. 3 turnovers, you're not going to beat anybody, especially at Syracuse. So can they clean enough of that up here and handle business against UCF?
Well, here's the thing to remember, and this is something you can take to the bank all year long. Teams are not as bad as they look in one game the next game. Teams are not as good as they look in one game the next game. I mean, there is regression to the norm, or the regression to the mean, whatever you want to call it. So I can make a case that Louisville is probably not as bad as they looked last week at Syracuse, and they were really bad in that football game. Cunningham was terrible, and so was the rest of the team. UCF, I'm not going to take anything out of their first game because it was against South Carolina State. This was a team that their season disintegrated last year, actually from the Louisville game, which was a tough 42-35 loss. And I thought they never recovered. I'm not a big Gus Malzahn guy, okay? I think he's certainly an innovative coach, but I don't know that he's been a good head coach. All that said, there's nothing to get me on Louisville here. They're going to have to show me that they're better than they were last week. And UCF certainly has to be pointing to this game. It's their first real game. Last week was a walkover. It's the revenge motive. Plumlee looked really good at quarterback last in that first game. The home crowd should be hopping. So, I can't disagree with the UCF love that's out there. It's just not going to make my card. I don't know if we have Ralph back with us.
Yep.
He can talk about this. There's also a trend that applies Now it's a kind of a random trend, if you will, in that it only applies to week 1 results and then week 2. But it's still been dynamite. And I'll let Ralph tell you about that. And if you don't have a pen and paper, just go to his Twitter feed because it's there as well.
Yeah, and it's an interesting trend. And Ralph Michaels, I think we've got him back there. Ralph, just nod your head if that's really you and you're not frozen. Okay, I'm seeing the smile. Ralph is back in. He's ready to go. Ralph, welcome back in. If you missed it, we are breaking down Louisville here and traveling to UCF. Your thoughts about the trend Dave was talking about and about this game?
Hey, Dave, I appreciate the plug. You just forgot to say @CalSportsLV and direct them where to go.
Oh, yeah.
Just going to Twitter. The trend Dave was talking about was this. When a team loses their opening game as an away favorite and then they're on the road again, you know, it's tough getting prepared for a season. You go on the road week 1, let alone facing a conference foe. You come back on a short week, travel again. It's only been 14-game sample size since the year 2000. So 22 years and only 13 games, but they're 1-12-1 against the spread. I will give you, though, a trend that goes opposite that. And when I pull teams in game number 1 that lost as the division favorite, like Louisville did to Syracuse, when they're a dog since 2003, they have actually covered 78% of their game. So you have a disappointing loss as a favorite in game number 1. You're now playing a non-conference foe. You get the overreaction. I tweeted earlier today, this is overreaction week. You know, if I made this line last week, I probably would have had UCF a 2.5-point favorite. So I think you're probably getting a 3-4-point swing because of the reactions. Listen, Cunningham's a much better quarterback than he was last year. But on the flip side, I will say this about UCF. Again, you played South Carolina State. You're now facing a foe that you're excited for. But you are, if you are UCF, only 3-7 as a home favorite. And you have a brand new quarterback playing his first home game against a true opponent and an edge to Louisville facing a mobile quarterback for the second straight game. Plumlee almost rushed for 100 yards last game. Schrader rushed 16 times for 95 yards that time. When you have a defense playing the same type of offense with a mobile quarterback for a second straight week, it's going to help them as well. I have no opinion, just opposite situations I wanted to share. Some on UCF, some on Louisville for this game.
All right, guys, that's going to kick it off. And, of course, game number 2 for us here today we're going to talk about is App State, poor bastards, taking on Texas A&M. The Aggies not going to get any easier for them. 18.5 is an open, 52.5 as a total. Dave, things are never as bad as they may seem, never as great as they may seem. So what do you think we get from App State in this bounce back?
I think App State's in a lot of trouble here. And I haven't bet this game yet, but I might. And if I do, it's going to be Texas A&M. Let's first talk about App State. Heartbreaker of a loss. They were able to move up and down the field despite the fact they fell way behind. First they were way ahead, then they fell way behind. And they came back because North Carolina absolutely sucks on defense. They are just brutal. Good offensive team, but they can't stop anything. And App State showed that last week. Chase Bryce, in my opinion, a very average quarterback at the college level. And he looked like Superman last week in the second half. Now they're facing what I think you can make a really good argument is a top 10 defensive unit in Texas A&M. The Aggies are really good on that side of the ball. And they're a playoff contender if their offense comes along. Now, I don't know if it will. I have some misgivings about King, but let's not read too much into the I'll call it somewhat unimpressive win last week over Sam Houston State. First of all, Sam Houston is a very good FCS program. Secondly, you had a long rain delay in the middle of the game. And I think A&M just went stale at that point. So maybe the score was a bit misleading there. This is a good matchup for them. The offense should be able to do some stuff against App State's defense. App State's not going to have nearly the success they had last week. They scored 60-something last week. They'll be lucky if they get 25% of that this week. I think App State gets shut down. And I think A&M eventually pulls away with their superior depth and wins this by 3 touchdowns, maybe more.
It certainly feels like it's another real tough spot for App State here, Tony, and maybe this game could get away from them early and often here. How do you think, how do they react after that heartbreaking loss there against North Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to match A&M's physicality, which is going to be tough to do because A&M obviously has more numbers in terms of depth. Bryce did throw 6 touchdowns. First team in 15 years to score 40 points in a fourth quarter. Appalachian State against Carolina. So they're not going to be as successful on the offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, the one thing that A&M in that game against Sam Houston, King was intercepted twice. Their top running back, Devin, I think it's our Shane. He only ran for 42 yards when he's a hell of a running back. So that's a lack of push from your offensive line. To have somebody shut down like that. Maybe they didn't, go to the playbook as in an opener, not showing all your tricks, but I mean, just a lack of push on the offensive line, I thought was what stood out to me. I think this game's going to be closer than the 18-point spread indicates. And then there's also, their center, Bryce Foster, is out with mono. One thing that I do not like is backing a team with a backup center because it throws off all your chemistry. So Matthew Wyckoff is starting. He started in game 1. They don't know when they'll get Foster back. So it'll be the same starting center as last week. Maybe that's part of the reason for the lack of push up front.
All right. Well, it's a good angle there, Ralph. And I got to tell you, maybe, just maybe, you think A&M might be looking ahead by any chance to next week's game?
I think App State has proven that you're not going to look past them. Obviously, they have Miami of Florida on deck, so, they might be peaking, but they're not looking past. To me, I mean, you don't get much of a bigger letdown spot than App State. You finally get to host an in-state rival. You host North Carolina. You blow the 2-point conversion late. You make that huge comeback. I looked up plays, obviously, and they ran 80 plays, and their defense was on the field for 71. And I do look for attrition early for some teams, just FYI, not necessarily in this game. But when you have a defense that's on the field for 90 or 100 plays in the first couple weeks of the season, I do tend to fade those teams in the second. I actually like the under here. When I looked at what teams do, gaining 600 yards in their season opener, they're 41% over, 59% to the under in the next game. You have that overreaction. You do see that App State allowed 215 yards rushing, 352 yards passing to North Carolina. One surprising stat that I took out of A&M is even though they played Sam Houston State, Dave said they're a very good team. I looked up my power ratings. I have Sam Houston State right around where South Florida is, USF. Now, BYU handled them pretty easily, but they're not a bottom feeder in the FCS. They would clearly be in the 100, 110 range in the FBS if you're looking at those. But I'm surprised A&M threw 35 times. As Tony said, they rushed 32 times for 110, 3.4 yards per carry average. I think A&M needs to establish the run game going into Miami of Florida and Arkansas. Max Haynes isn't going to be the one to get him wins in that. I think App State is not going to have the same success. I certainly agree with A&M on the side, but I'm going to lean first half under here. I think A&M wants to establish the run early. I agree with what Dave said, that physically they may pull away early in the second half. I think App State tries not to make mistakes, and first game lower scoring than expected under the total.
All right, liking a little bit of the under in that one, guys, and of course we do have one more game here to break down, and how about Iowa State taking on Iowa? And Dave, I think the big question is, will we get more points in the Yankees-Tampa Bay Rays game this weekend, or Iowa State and Iowa? Look at what Iowa State lost. Brock Purdy, Bryce Hall, they lost their tight end caller. It feels like Iowa State's lost everybody, but Iowa's kind of owned them, Dave, at 3.5 and 40.5. What do you do?
Iowa's dominated this series recently. They won 6 in a row, covered 5 of those. Nobody wants to lay points in Iowa after last week. Their offense is incredibly pedestrian, and it does make it tough to lay points with them. But, I mean, Iowa State, I think they're in trouble here. The quarterback, he's not Brock Purdy, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's a redshirt freshman. Now, he did play against Iowa last year because Purdy got hurt. And I think he had one other game where he saw a little bit of action. But he's still a redshirt freshman going against a really good defense. I don't trust the Iowa offense enough to lay the points. The total is already low because of what took place last week, obviously. I think Iowa's going to find a way to win the game by a touchdown. Maybe a little bit more. I do think there's a pretty good gap between these teams. And despite the fact I've got lots of respect for Matt Campbell, I just don't think he's got the horses this season at Iowa State. I think they're kind of an ordinary Big 12 team. Iowa will bore you to death, but they're going to be effective and find ways to win most of their games, and I think they'll do that here. It's a weak call, but I'll have to side with Iowa minus the points.
You know, Ralph, 2 questions, Ralph. Did Iowa recruit nobody that they just stuck with Spencer Petras? They couldn't get any quarterback to come and play with them? And 2, and Dave mentioned it, I mean, this team was 7-6, Iowa State, last year, and they've lost just about every player that gave any production on both sides of the ball. So you'd like to look the other way, but can you with Iowa State?
Well, take a look. You had your top 2 wide receivers transfer over Purdue because they wanted to catch the ball, and look what they did against, So, obviously you're in trouble there. I will say this. You guys both talked about ugly. Well, remember last year, Iowa had 173 yards and 11 first downs, yet they find a way to win 27-17. One correction for Dave. Purdy didn't get hurt last year. He actually just threw 3 interceptions. And
he threw 3 picks. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
He threw 3 picks, and they yanked him out of the game. So Deekers did get to play this game. You know what? The total is low, but I am still going under. 8 of 9 games have gone under. They averaged 36 points in those unders. Iowa's going to run the ball. They're not going to throw the ball 31 times like they did against Southeast Missouri State, did the Cyclones. The 42 points they put up, again, very misleading against a very weak team. I played a very good team, yet they only had, 2 safeties and a field goal to get their 7 points, 10 first downs, 166 yards. 2 trends really to play on, but I just want to mention them to you because I looked it up. When a team scores 10 points or less in their opener and they win the game, they have actually gone 18-2 against the spread the next game. So they have done remarkable winning that game, eking out a game 1 win, and moving forward. And when a team has under 200 yards in the opener, like Iowa did with 166, if either of the teams at under 200 yards, they've gone under the total 59% with 129 games of sample size. So I also tweeted earlier, when a team gets 600 yards, those games have gone under 58% of the time. But when a team gets under 200 yards, it has been a solid underplay. And when the total is 48 or less, there have been 12 overs and only 22 unders since 2006. That's 65% to the under. So the number is low, but I am going to go. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen to that. I mean, Tony, you just feel if this was in Ames, maybe that's one thing, but it's in Iowa City. Just feels like first half unders, full game unders. What do you think we're going to get here from this one?
I've never seen a 4-0 scoreline in a half. That's what happened in Iowa and South Dakota State. It's tied at 3 at halftime, and then Iowa with the 2 safeties. Incredible. And it might go against the Hawkeyes if they are at home, because I think Iowa Nation has seen enough of Spencer Petras. So we'll see if Alex Padilla gets out there. Certainly can't do worse. And I'm in total agreement with Ralph. I think the play here is the under. Iowa's defense is going to be solid again. Hunter Dekkers, as Dave pointed out, is not the polished quarterback just yet. He's got a good arm, and they do have Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver, is their top weapon. But I mean, you double cover him if you're Iowa, and you live with the rest. Obviously, not having Breece Hall is going to set the Cyclones back this season. You can't take much from Iowa State's first game. They blew out SEMO as they were expected to. I don't think they even covered the number in a 42-10 win. So this is a tough matchup early in the season. They're against a team that they've lost to 6 straight times. So it hasn't been much of a rivalry there. I think Iowa wins again, but I'd be most comfortable with the under, and the total being as low as it is. It's still not low enough.
Not low enough, says Tony Mejia. Entire defensive front, all them starters back for Iowa except for one. They showed up and showed out last week, and they keep it going when Iowa welcomes in their cross-state rivals, Iowa State. So there you got it, guys. 3 games to start off this Week 2 card here. Now it's time to figure out if these guys are leaning towards one of these games a little bit more than the rest. And Ralph, we missed you on the open, so in addition to telling us which one of these games you like a little more than the rest, tell us what you got going on over at WagerTalk.com.
I'm still working on this week's card. Actually went out of town for a wedding, so puts me a day behind. I'll be starting to load plays tomorrow. Looking for a good week 2. Like I said, I like this week because of the overreactions and having the history data of what teams have done. So just stay tuned. Don't quite have that finalized. Again, I'm going to go under, but I'm actually going to use under in the first half for Iowa and Iowa State, under 20.5. Decker making his first road start. You got a young kid on the road. I got to believe they're going to run the ball. We know what Iowa's going to do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play defense. So under 20.5 first half. I will say this, though, because I threw out that stat that it's 41% over under with 200 yards or less. I do want to point out that first half, the average score, the average total has been 26 points. The second half has been 18 points when the total's 48 or less. So fewer points have been scored in the second half when a team has under those 200 yards. I'm actually going to go against that because of the young quarterback for Iowa State. Under 20.5 first half for my best bet.
All right, looking at that game to be like watching paint dry again all over. Tony Mejia, what do you think? How are you going to approach these games? Is there one you like a little bit more than the rest here?
I do. I think UCF in a revenge spot on a Friday night. The bounce house will be rocking. I mean, the season did go down the tubes last year in that Louisville game because Dylan Gabriel hurt his shoulder and that was his final snap at UCF on the final play of the game. They were trying to get a desperation comeback. Isaiah Bowser, the UCF running back, also injured his I think it was his knee in that game. So it was a nightmare of an evening, and I think it was a Thursday night game if I remember correctly. That was on the heels of opening the season with a win at Boise State. So UCF was really excited. Year one of the Malzahn era, and then it went down the tubes because they had no proven backup. Mikey Keene, who's now the backup, was a true freshman, and that's really why UCF season went down the tubes. So now we've got John Rice Plumlee, and I think it's a really good spot here for the Knights to win by double digits over Louisville. We haven't figured stuff out yet. Malik Cunningham should bounce back, but I don't think he bounces back enough to prevent another Louisville loss. UCF's got FAU after that, and then Georgia Tech. They could start 4-0 before heading into the final year of American Athletic Conference play. I think they play SMU at home. So could be a big start, a big September for the Knights.
All right, looking forward to the Knights right down the road from Mejia there. And I do want to mention, guys, Ralph had alluded to it here. It's still early in the week, but there is no better time for you guys to hop on board right now with all 3 of these gentlemen and grab yourself one of those 7-day, 30-day all-access packages, heck, even the season, because time is money in this sport here, and the sooner you get those plays, the better chance you have at that closing line value, which, Dave went 7-0 in his picks last week, knows all about it. So every half a point matters. Get those all-access packages. You never got to wait. Get them immediately so you're able to act on it. And, Dave, what do you think here of these games? Is there one you like a little bit more than the rest?
Yeah, non-committal on the Louisville UCF game. I think it looks too easy to take Central Florida. I don't want Louisville, but I'm not going to lay that number. I like Iowa. A little nervous about laying even 3.5 with the offense there, but I think they're the right side. But I think I haven't played this game yet, but there's a good chance I'm going to end up going ahead with A&M. I think it's a terrible spot for App State. I think it's a bad matchup for App State, which is a team that has to get it done with offense, and that's not the way to beat A&M with a top 10 defense. I'm dismissing last week's game. Those games that have rain delays in the middle of the game, it's just, I think you can often toss the rest of the game. There's no way to get a read on teams coming out of those things. And I think A&M just got out of there with a win last week. They should be better here, and I think they match up really well with App State. So even at minus 18, A&M minus the points, my best bet here in the show.
All right, there it is. A&M to come out firing, guys. There you got it. Iowa State, Iowa, first half under for Ralph. 20.5 Mejia. He likes his Knights, man. -6 here. And, of course, Dave likes A&M to go out there and handle business, laying the 18. These are where they're leaning here, guys. But you should be leaning over to WagerTalk.com. Visit Dave's page. Visit Tony Mejia's page. Of course, visit Ralph's page. Also visit the free live odds page while you're at WagerTalk.com, and this way you can keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the betting markets across those sports books. It is a great free tool over at WagerTalk.com, but like I said, those all-access packages, you never got to be late. Get those plays immediately as soon as they're posted and get the best of the number. Visit all three gentlemen right now at WagerTalk.com. Don't forget, download the app, the brand new app there. WagerTalk, look at it on your Android, the Apple Store, and of course, any of your smart TVs, download it. And of course, on demand, get every one of these shows across WagerTalk TV anytime you like. Hit the bell in the upper right-hand corner on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe and make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. More college football, week number 2. It is off and running. On behalf of Ralph, Tony, and Dave, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks so very much for making us a part of your day. Best of luck, guys. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.